And welcome to your Political Pulse. We are joined by South Dakota Democratic Candidate for Congress, Billy Mawhiney. Billy, we appreciate you joining Political Pulse, and of course, welcome to the west side of the state. We know you're a Sioux Falls guy.
Yes, well, thanks for having me. I appreciate coming.
Before we get into the policy stuff, I want to talk about you. I read you were raised on a small farm in Missouri. You've been living here for the last 18 years. What have you been doing for the last 18 years here in South Dakota?
You know, when I first came to South Dakota, we were living in Mitchell, and that was a great space to be in. Small town, it really brought me back to my roots, I would say. And then we got custody of our youngest child, and we decided to make a move to Sioux Falls, just for a little bit more opportunity, and have done that since. I mean, I've done a little cooking classes, I've gotten back into after-school programs with the Boys and Girls Club, and now I run the South Dakota After School Network.
I do want to address the elephant in the room. You drove over here from Sioux Falls through the insane weather that we've had. What was that journey like over here? What did you go through to get out here?
You know, we all make that journey like it's nothing quite often, but I was expecting the wind. I had prepared myself for windy, but the monsoon rain that came that slowed me down to 60, 65 miles an hour on that interstate, man alive, I was not ready for that. So, but we're here and we're safe and glad.
Did you sleep at all? Like when you actually got here to Rapid City, did you get much sleep? Because that wind was so loud. Last night I was out having a drink, and we were talking at the bar. We're saying a lot of bloodshot eyes around here, given that nobody slept last night.
Absolutely not. I have never been in a hotel that shook during the middle of the night. I mean, we've all dealt with wind, but man, I've just never, what was it, 101, or it was over 100 for sure at the peak. So
it was super loud. Yeah, I sent my family a video. It was just literally like of black. I was like, listen to this. And it was just black. And you could just hear it howling. Okay, let's get into your policy stuff. What are going to be your policy priorities should you secure a seat in Congress?
Sure. Healthcare is always, especially right now, we're talking about insurance premiums are something everyone's talking about, but more so getting into how do we change healthcare to make it more available with access and affordability. Making sure that, personally, Native sovereignty is really important to me, and honoring Native voice just because of my roots. And so ensuring that, bringing that from South Dakota, making sure that everyone has a seat at the table. But also making sure Main Street opportunities for rural. We're talking about affordability up and down. No one's seen any breaks in the grocery store. Gas is starting to come down a little bit, so that's nice, but housing is unaffordable. So we just got to make sure we've got to create some policies that everyone has access to, an opportunity. But I would say the easiest thing for me to talk about is childcare and education. It's what my entire career has been about, and so that's why I brought forth some policy already.
So when you look at South Dakota, where do you think the state could make some progress on child care and education, and where would you try to get those done in Congress? Of course, those would be federal initiatives, but where would you try to get those done in Congress to hopefully also benefit a state like South Dakota?
Yeah, it's hard. It would be not appropriate for me to say like what South Dakota should be doing specifically, because that's a state decision, but I can tell you that the South Dakota After School Network has helped create new child care facilities over the last couple years in places like Platte, Gregory, Burke, Bonesteel, Murdo. So there has been some opportunity, and I think we can continue to work through that. But Tri-Share for America, that's what I introduced. And it's really, you can call it a universal child care, although sometimes maybe buzzwords are a little tough for some folks to hear, but it's simple. It's just it's a 5-year transition plan to create access for every single family that's affordable.
On that, how would that work, though? Could you just give us a little bit more information on how this might this work? It sounds like you're saying that this would be some sort of government-backed version of after-school childcare, which I know a lot of parents, this is a place where a lot of parents do struggle, is they're working and their kids get off school at, what, 2, 3 o'clock?
Yes. And this isn't just for after school. This would be inclusive of all childcare. So you're talking birth to about 12, 13 at this point, although kids above that still need access to connection for that piece of it. But it's real simple. When we say Tri-Share, we mean the government is going to have a piece of that. The government already puts up money through child care development grants, through the 21st Century Funds. So there's already some funding coming through the government. The families are already paying, but right now we're paying $300, $400 a week for childcare. We need to reduce that to a much reasonable amount. But families are still going to have to be able to pay for that directly to the childcare. The third piece is businesses need to get involved. That's who affects most. In America overall, it's estimated that $122 billion is lost because of childcare issues, and so let's just take that money that they're losing and invest it into their employees and their communities. And between all three, everyone's chipping in a little. And that's how we can afford it and move forward.
I would imagine you hear a lot of testimonial from parents who talk about either having to leave work early, quit their jobs, or spend an exorbitant amount of money on childcare. What are you hearing? What kind of feedback do you get from everyday South Dakotans on this issue?
Well, I mean, it's an obvious gap, like you said. At 2:45, 3 o'clock, whatever it is around the state, that's when kids are out of school. But most parents don't get off work till 5, 6, whatever that time frame is. So we have to fill in some gaps already. We just know, I mean, parents know that they either have to leave the workforce or they have to find a job that creates that opportunity for them to do it, which is usually a reduction in their work opportunity. But even more so, it's just making sure that what you hear from parents most is, how can I still afford it and have quality programming? And I think that's the part we really have to tackle.
Okay, you talked about healthcare a little bit, and of course that's the national discussion right now with Congress. We saw a lengthy government shutdown over Democrats trying to get an extension of those ACA subsidies.
Yeah.
Now, I just saw this, I'm sure you've seen the same reporting on this, that a few Republicans actually broke from the party, voted alongside Democrats to at least get a vote in the House on an extension of those subsidies. Republicans have also passed their own bill on health care. I'm sure you've studied at least some of that bill. But big picture here, where do you think Congress as a whole has gotten this issue wrong with health care? And how would you do things differently than the Democrats that might be in Congress right now trying to work to get an extension of these ACA subsidies? Where would you differ from them?
Sure.
Or you could be aligned.
No.
I probably leave that open for you as well.
That's fair. Let's talk about what it actually is. Right now, the ACA subsidies that are going to expire, it looks like going to expire at the end of this month, at the end of the year. That's just the Band-Aid, right? And what we're talking about is just healthcare premiums or healthcare insurance. That does not tackle healthcare as a whole. When we talk about health care, which is going to take a much deeper discussion and a much more reach across the aisle on both sides, and that's probably how I would differ. I mean, we have to be able to afford insurance, yes, but that is just the beginning. That's just the Band-Aid piece of it. So how do we go beyond that? Well, health care in itself is making sure that everyone has affordable housing, making sure that everyone has access to the proper food and nutrition, making sure that we are just able to reach a doctor, so making sure that rural opportunities don't get lost because of cuts or funding or what that could possibly mean. The struggle with that, I mean, most Democrats would say, well, let's just single payer system or let's get Medicare for all, and I think that's going to insure people pretty fast if we just reduce the age of Medicare, right? Give everyone that option. The struggle with that is administrations ebb and flow, and administration priorities ebb and flow. And so we would, if we're going to go in that route, that's where I would push back against my own fellow Democrats and say we have to build safeguards so that no matter whether it's a Democrat or Republican or whoever is in the administration, that won't change, that care won't change based on whatever the newest fad is.
Right now, Republicans have control of all of Congress. They've got the Senate, they've got the House. And I think this is a good question for you because you're running in a primarily Republican state on the Democratic ticket. Where do you think Democrats on a national scale have gotten it wrong and have lost control of really all of the federal government at this point? I mean, Republicans are controlling all of it right now.
Yeah. I get asked this quite often, like, how do we change it? What's new? And I would say the buzz part of it is Democrats are really horrible at messaging. I mean, Republicans have been great at, when you look at it at a macro scale, I'm not talking about South Dakota, but at a macro scale, Democrats aren't the best messengers of what they do, but I think the Democratic Party has actually grown so significant that we encompass a lot of people, and I think we just come across as not genuine and not authentic because we're worried about offending someone, and really, if we just have open conversations and have genuine conversations with folks to say, I don't understand you, but let's figure it out, then I think we could accomplish a lot more. And I think we also have to, what we've seen so far is just talking about the real issues, not talking about a ballroom, or not talking about things that are distracting, just talking about, like, we need to reduce grocery prices. We need to figure out how we need to reduce these tariffs that are causing prices to go up so high.
We'll get into the tariffs, but when you talk about focusing on some of the wrong issues, what do you think have been the main? You brought up the ballroom. What are some other examples you think where Democrats have tried to use this as a pressure point, but really haven't gained any ground in doing so?
I mean, that's a tough one when you think about strategy, because you don't know what works and what doesn't work.
Right.
I mean, that's the honest truth. But I can tell you right now, I think Democrats learned in 2024 running a campaign against the MAGA agenda is not, when you run it against a certain agenda and just use the messaging for negativity, people are completely disconnected from politics because of that. So you just got to have real ideas, real policies, and talk about that.
Have you been focused at all on how President Trump's use of tariffs and his trade negotiation platform has had an effect on South Dakota? Is that somewhere you think you can get some ground? You brought up those tariffs.
I did. Tariffs are affecting everyone. I mean, everything we purchase now, if it's, let me take it back just a little too and say, Americans, the golden era of what this administration is calling the golden era is when we produced stuff. We produced things, we produced items. We're consumers now. I mean, we just have to own the fact that my kids are not going to be the miners that are getting into that. They might do some other things, but that's not where they're looking for. They're more consumers than anything else, and we have to accept that we're buying more than we're sending out. And if we're going to tariff everyone, that's really just a tax on Americans. I mean, if we break down what a tariff is, the idea behind a tariff is tax Americans so high that you start buying local. There's nothing wrong with buying local. We want to buy local. We just don't make enough goods locally for everyone to have.
So you talk about the future. One of the things, I mean, it seems like it's moving in our lives faster than we can even comprehend, is the use of AI. Do you think Congress needs to take more action on AI, or at least look into AI more? It doesn't seem like it's eating up as many headlines as it, in the same ratio that it's integrating into our lives, it's integrating into daily conversation. People are talking about how they use it.
Yeah, one of the wildest things is the ban on local control for AI. I mean, South Dakota should be able to say what they want, how they want to manage.
Real quick, let me just back this up. You're talking about the president's executive order that ultimately centralized all the AI rules with the federal government.
Yes.
Not allowing states to enact their own rules on AI. I just want to provide the context.
Sorry, I kind of jumped ahead of the story.
No, it's okay. I got to be the news nerd. You know, this is unfortunately what I get paid to do.
So that's exactly what I'm talking about, is the executive order that took away states' rights to say, this is what we want, this is how we can do it. I mean, yes, there's going to be deep fakes, and that's the big concern, is we live in a world of misinformation. And it's so easy, and now with AI, it's even easier. So we've got to figure out how we're going to manage that, how we're going to label it. I mean, if I gotta pick up a shirt from wherever you're buying your shirts, and it has to have a label of where it's coming from, why don't we have the same thing with digital?
Okay, back to Congress,
Yes.
all of Congress. Right now, as I mentioned, Republicans control all of Congress. Where do you think Democrats should be working with Republicans? We live in a state where, you know, the Democrats, I mean, we're in a super majority Republican state, so the Democrats in the state legislature have to work with Republicans if they want to get anything done. And right now, largely in Congress, that's also the same case. Where do you think there's some opportunities right now that they should be capitalizing on to work with Republicans to get things done?
Tariffs. healthcare, and I mean healthcare and insurance. I mean both of those things, and education. We have to invest in education. I mean, we know that what we've done so far with standardized testing isn't working. It isn't working as much as we want to, and so removing that doesn't give that opportunity. I do think there's a couple different opportunities. I will say, here's my praise that I think Democrats and Republicans can work on in this regard is I am personally not against this tax credit for scholarship for private funding. I think getting private donors to pay for private school vouchers makes a lot of sense. We don't want public dollars going for that. That's not a value that I sit behind, but we don't mind if private dollars are going to that. And also those dollars don't have to go to just private schools. They can go to after school programs and before school programs as well.
Looking at other elections, we saw that New York mayoral race where Zoran Mamdani won over a more centrist Democrat. Has that shifted your campaign strategy at all when you looked at his campaign? Was there anything you drew from that and said, okay, maybe I can integrate a little bit of this, or is it all a throw out to you being this far out in South Dakota?
Well, I mean, Mamdani is not going to win a mayor or governor race in South Dakota because what works in New York City does not work necessarily in South Dakota. We know that. But let's take the lessons from it. Engaging young voters, the highest number of young voters ever that anyone has ever seen. So engaging young voters, and he did it through authenticity and just being direct. He said, this is what I believe in, this is how I want to do it, and got engagement in that, right? So yeah, of course we're pulling from those lessons, ensuring that young voters we're trying to attract young voters. That's what we need to, because they're the generation that's gonna make decisions for us in the future anyway.
One of the first headlines he made is he had a meeting with President Trump. He accepted a meeting, he went to the White House and met with President Trump. What did you make of that whole meeting between the two of them?
Well, why wouldn't you? I mean, President Trump is the president of the United States. Whether you like the fact that he's there or we don't like the fact that he's there, you still have to have the meeting. You still have to have the conversations. If you're just going to block the things you don't like, then we're not going to get anywhere. You got to walk through and talk through the ideas, because what we used to do is we used to use partisan politics as a way to solve problems. We would use it, discuss our ideas, and come up with a solution. Now partisan politics are this battleground. So I loved seeing that in the regard that they were actually talking. Now, did they get any resolution out of what that looks like? No, I think they kind of left even calling each other a little name. But it was very cordial, and it was professional, and it's what everyone should be doing. Do
you hope that's the start of a new trend and seeing some of these high-profile meetings between high-profile Democrats and high-profile Republicans?
Yeah, we should be seeing this. Again, there's no reason to not have conversations. Now, you also know that maybe there isn't an opportunity for folks, but there's nothing wrong with sit down and have a conversation. I don't think there's anyone I wouldn't sit down and have a conversation with.
Okay, as a tribal member, you were telling me that one of the things you'd like to see in Congress is more representation for the tribes. Yeah. Can you explain some of your goals there in enhancing that representation in Congress?
Yeah, it goes back a lot. But here in South Dakota, I mean, you just start with the struggles of the Fort Laramie Treaty, right? And how that land belongs to the Sioux people, talking about the Black Hills specifically. And so just if we know that land belongs to the Sioux people, why are they not getting to make decisions based on the land that belongs to them? I mean, treaties are the supreme law of the land. So that's just the beginning phase of it. You also have to ensure that Native Americans in South Dakota, I think, make roughly 20% of the population. You're not seeing that representative. We're not even seeing that in legislative pieces of ensuring that it's equal and fair. I say that because everyone says that South Dakota is a huge red state, and we see that through legislators. Out of the 105, I think there's 8 Democrats total. But what we're not seeing is the fact that under 50% are registered Republicans. We are a very purple state at heart. And I think in order to make reasonable progression in that regard, we have to have a much more representative culture, but we've got to make sure that that happens and get folks elected.
Okay, so moving forward, what are your campaign goals? How do you hope to get your message out to South Dakotans?
Right now it's just awareness, right? I'm not the biggest name in the ticket, and I think that's okay because I'm not the career politician out of the other folks in there. So making sure that I'm getting out, getting my name in regards of letting everyone see. The second piece is we have to get the signatures. So that's the piece of it. You got to make sure you're on the ballot. Once that happens, then we are going full blast, trying to do as much as we can anywhere and everywhere. You know, we're heading into the holiday season. We're heading into winter in South Dakota, so travel is not going to be as great. But we've really spent a lot of energy trying to come West River to make sure that we have presence and opportunity. Sioux Falls is great. I live there. I love it. There's a lot of opportunity. But there's a lot more to South Dakota than just that urban space.
Yeah, let's talk about that. What kind of feedback do you see a difference in the feedback that you're getting from voters when you're out here West River and they're talking with you versus when you're in Sioux Falls?
Yeah, they're not the same issues. I mean, essentially, the school issues may not be the same. The healthcare issues may not be the same. I mean, in Sioux Falls, we have a big opportunity of what you can choose, and some people may not like either any of the healthcare options, but there's still more opportunity and more access. So just everyone's excited to see candidates come West River, I think, because they've just been left out. I mean, I think West River has just been because of the lack of population, more so, that there's been a huge concentration, and that's just not who South Dakota is.
Okay, anything you want to leave us with that we did not get to during this interview?
I mean, at the end of the day, I just want to have honest conversations with folks. I think DC, what we need to put in DC and what everyone's looking for right now is someone more connected. I live in one mortgage. I have one mortgage. I have one car payment. I live an everyday working South Dakotan life. And so I think having that connection to DC is going to move us a lot forward.
Do you think there's just too much of a disconnect right now with a lot of the people representing the people?
Yeah, and I don't want to despair like progress or like success. I don't want to despair that at all, but there's a huge disconnect into what ideas are in DC versus what's actually happening in South Dakota.
Okay, well, Billy Mawhiney, we do appreciate you coming on Political Pulse. We hope next time you're out West River, hopefully you get a more inviting commute across the state. I promise that wasn't us saying don't come.
Yeah.
But anyways, we do appreciate you coming on the show. We hope you come on again.
Yeah, thanks so much.
Okay, and that's going to do it for your Political Pulse.